You can see the full screen?
Yes.
All right. Okay, so thank you for that, Casey. Let's just get right into it. This is very cool stuff. We added R and Python scripting in a release in the product last year, around December, I believe. And it really just allows you to use these custom libraries in Reveal. So what we're trying to do is not limit you to what's in the box in terms of chart types, visualizations, and even the overall capability of Reveal. Everything succeeds now through ecosystems, through extensibility, through customizations, and through the SDK. We have an entire API which lets you do that, plus all of the things that you're going to learn today, and even more exciting, or equally as exciting, I would say, in 2 weeks when we start talking about using some of the predictive analytics, machine learning capabilities in Reveal. But if you're not familiar, R and Python are probably the most widely used scripting languages in the world. I think Python, nowadays, kids start learning it in like 5th grade. You know, everyone is learning how to script and write code in Python. It's open source, its libraries are widely available. So really what we're trying to do is ensure that if there's something that you want to render within a dashboard and share it with others, you can do that. If there is a custom visualization that your company uses, something very domain specific, and you need to put it inside of a dashboard that you're distributing as part of your application in the SDK, we don't want to limit you to that. So we do have this capability called a DIY visualization, which lets you use like any JavaScript library within Reveal, but this just takes it to a whole nother level. I'm going to show you an example today in R, which is using R plus HTML plus JavaScript to render into the widget container inside of a dashboard. So pretty cool stuff. So some of the common scenarios and why we did this. Number one, there's a visualization you require that we do not ship. This is the primary reason you would use the tool. You require advanced scripting or data prep tests to be applied to the data you're working with. I'm going to show you an example today when we pull in some data from Twitter and it's just a string, but you actually want to parse that string and put it into a word cloud. Well, that is some data, that's a data prep exercise, and you can do that with scripting languages. You're a citizen data scientist or developer, and you've created visualizations that you want to reuse. So if you have anyone on your team that has built a bunch of visualizations in R or Python because they're using some other tools like RStudio, you can just copy that or use their code from GitHub or whatever, paste it into our editor, and those visualizations will appear. Number four, you're using a different visualization product and you want to create mashups with existing Reveal dashboards. I'm going to show you that as well today. So there's a product on the market, an open source product called Plotly, and it has a R and Python library, but their tool only works with the Plotly stuff. So let's say you have a Plotly visualization and you want to do a cross filter with something from Marketo using a Reveal chart. So those are the types of mashups that you can create. And finally, number five, you're trying to tell a great data story. So if you've been with us along the way on this Summer BI series, everything is about telling your story. So your data is telling a story about something, and you need to use every tool at your disposal to tell that data story, because essentially someone's going to look at your dashboard and start making decisions. And however you need to ensure that the right decisions are being made in that data story is really your job. So maybe that's number one, but I have it here as number five to kind of wrap up some of these common scenarios. And if you have any common scenarios too, pop it in the chat window. We'd love to hear it. So here, if we look at the visualizations in Reveal, so currently in Reveal, we ship 40 data visualizations in 7 different categories. Compare data, part to whole, data distribution, et cetera. We went over this about a month ago in our charting best practices webinar. which you can view up on YouTube and go grab the downloads on SlideShare from the slides. But the point is, we're always adding new visualizations. So, you know, when we have a webinar next year, there's probably going to be 50 or 60 data visualizations in these 7 categories. So we're always improving. But when it comes to the whole world out there, there's no way that we can keep up with what's available, and there's no reason to. I mean, we can't think of every possible scenario that would be a native visualization in Reveal, because we don't know your business, and you might be doing something very specific, or you might need something very specific. So when we think about custom visualizations, either through R, Python, or our do-it-yourself bridge, JavaScript bridge, the opportunities are endless. So if you think about in Python, Matplotlib, which is what we're going to use today amongst a few other libraries, it has Biggle, Chalk, Dislin, GNU, Octave, NuPlot, PyPlot, PyChop, PyPlotter, SageMap, blah, 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 and on and on and on and on. And all of those have visualizations, and they all have math libraries, and they all do this really rich rendering capability for it. They have really rich APIs. So, you know, all told, there's probably thousands of combinations of things you can do out there when you think about Reveal working with Python and R. So we're not trying to keep up with the whole, you know, data visualization. We're going to do all the core stuff, and then everything else is left up to your imagination. One of the neat ones here is if you look at like a 3D surface chart, Infragistics actually ships this as part of our DevTools product, but we don't have it in Reveal. We probably will eventually, but if you need to do a 3D surface chart tomorrow, no problem, just use Python. There's some great 3D libraries, and I'm going to show you one today in a very exciting 3D pie chart, of course. So how do you get started with all this goodness? System requirements. Advanced scripting is supported in the following platforms: the WPF desktop client, which is what I'm going to use today, and then the desktop SDK. So that means everything you see today, you can build into your application and deploy with the SDK. Now, why don't we support the web? Like if you're just doing a Python script and it's in the HTML browser. Well, the problem with that is in order to successfully do that, you would have to be on your own tenant, because your queries could take 10 minutes, 15 minutes. We have no idea, or there could be an error in your script and it could crash. And so even though we do have a microservice architecture in Reveal and we can deploy in multiple tenants, the general web app is not built that way that you see up on the cloud. So that app, I don't know if we'll ever get there. I looked around in the market. Power BI allows this on the web, but you have to have your own tenant through Azure. So we will continue to improve this. There are opportunities for us to add this to iOS and Android. So stay tuned if you're looking for something beyond the rich client WPF SDK. From the Python and R perspective, we do support like older versions of Python, like 2.7, but I believe those are out of support. The version I'm using, I think, is 3.8 today, and there might be a higher version available. R 3.x or higher, and the reason is we just say this is because there's dependencies in the other libraries as well. So when you think about R, liken it to like if you're a developer in Angular app where there's a chain of dependencies that are going with that specific version. So they might not work with older versions. So that's why we just recommend this. And then both R and Python have an embeddable install. So you can embed those packages into your install. So when you deploy the SDK, you're installing the Reveal package, the Python package or R package with your package. So then your users don't have to install anything. This is really so you can get going. So for you to start on just doing everything that I'm going to do today using the desktop client, go to python.org, download the Windows version of R. And what I do to make it super easy, because what Python does by default is it installs to your local app data, local programs, which is a pain in the neck to remember. So I always click customize installation. I always check this box, add Python to path. It won't by default, which will give you some headaches, which Casey and I had some headaches this morning when we were running through some demos, and all of a sudden mine didn't work, but hers did. And I had rebooted my machine because of a Windows update, and R by default did not add the path to the environment variable. So I had to do that manually, and everything worked fine. So make sure you check that for Python and R when you install. So I just changed mine to Python 38, and then it's easy for me to use and remember and kind of navigate to. R is the same. Go to cran.rproject.org, Windows base, and install R. This is the default path, R-4.0.2 for the current version of R. And the nice thing is they always have the current version, and then there's all kinds of other versions that you can install, including the embedded ones that I had mentioned earlier. So once you do that, just like anything else to get going, and of course, this can all be part of your distribution, but when you're setting this up initially on your computer to test out how all this works, you have to install some libraries to make sure that you can render certain visualizations. So of course, Matplotlib is the one you want to install first, but you have to use the command prompt and you type in Python, which starts up the Python engine. Pip is the Python installer, and you tell it to install the library. And then in R, there's actually an app called RGUI, which just lets you type in the package name. So it's install.packages, and then you put in the package name that you want to install. Now for this, for all of my demos today, these are the packages that you would need to run these. And when you get the slide deck, you can actually just type these, and I have them in the notes for the slides. So if I switch here and I swap these views, you can see that I've got all of the installs that you'll need to do to make sure that you get all of the libraries installed successfully. It's super easy to do. When you hit enter, if you've never done this before, when you install these libraries, they take a second. Don't try to type in again until it says complete, and then you'll see the C : /, or you'll just see in the GUI what you need to install. So how do we create these visualizations? What I'm going to do today in the presentation is I'm going to focus on Python in the slides, and then I'm going to just go into demos showing you Python and R. And I'm not going to go into coding and all this technical stuff. I'm going to show you how to do it through some slides and then through a demo. And then, the great thing is it doesn't really matter your level of expertise. You can go copy paste stuff from the internet, like do a search, how to do a word cloud in Python, and you're going to see the code. And there's just a couple things you need to know about Reveal, and then you can have a word cloud with your own custom script in literally 10 seconds, and you'll see that today. So creating Python visualizations. Previously, a few minutes ago, when I said there's no way we could keep up with every possible visualization, this is an example of the Matplotlib samples gallery of every possible thing you would ever want to do with every cool interaction and every capability. And there's probably 10 times more. I took 8 screenshots and tried to make it smaller so I could get as many of these in here as I could. But I think you get the point. There's thousands of examples to inspire you. So one of the things that we talked about with charting best practices last month was, you don't go and you don't say, oh, I really like that chart because it's really pretty and I like the color, so I'm going to make that fit with my data. What you do is you go through the same UX process that you would if you were designing an application. You're designing your data story with visualizations. So what is my data and what story do I want to tell? And if the story you want to tell doesn't fit within those 40 charts that Reveal provides, then start looking elsewhere and say, hey, maybe this is a better way to tell my story. And that's really what's exciting about the R and Python having these libraries with the extensive examples and capabilities of doing these visualizations to really help you tell that data story. Some other things that are nice is anytime you start using a different library, it might not fit the look and feel of the theme that you're trying to deliver in your application. So if you checked out Casey's blog from, I think it was February, around all of the theming customizations that we added. No, it was actually March. The theming customizations that we added in the Reveal SDK, where you can change the font, the colors, the font style, all of the look and feel, so it matches your look and feel. So you have complete control over the UI. Now I'm going to inject the R histogram, and by default, it doesn't even match my UI. Well, guess what? All of these libraries have customizations. You just have to follow the path. So if you download a library, like there's this 3D library I'm going to show you today, go find the help file, and it'll tell you how to change the colors, how to change the styles, how to change the labels, how to change the size, how to change the tooltips. Everything that you actually would want, you could change with in code with these customizations in script. So this is just an example. One of the nice things is, if you recall, last month we showed you Color Brewer, which I think is just colorbrewer.com. And it is a cool tool that allows you to select palettes that map to your brand, and then it's interactive, and then it gives you all the hex values, RGB, etc., and you copy and paste in your app. Well, Color Brewer has R plugins and I believe Python, but we used one of them in R for a tree map or for our word clouds examples. And so we're just saying use Color Brewer set 8, and all of a sudden it's this nice set of colors for our word cloud. We don't have to think about it. So customizations are all there. So how would you go about setting this up? I'm going to show you these slides and we'll go right into a demo. But the thing is, you would connect to your data source just like you would if you were going to use a default Reveal chart. You would connect your data source, you have your field list, you drag your fields over to the columns, and then you choose your visualization. Well, instead of choosing pie chart, column chart, tree map, you're going to select Python script or R script from the dropdown. These are all the way at the bottom, so you have to scroll down and select R and Python. Once you select R and Python, in the settings, you have a script button, and you click that button and it pops up our script editor. Now, the nice thing is, what we're doing is we are importing some libraries by default. So we import Matplotlib, PyPlot, NumPy, and Pandas. All of these are they're data rendering, they are number manipulation and text manipulation. So if you want to do some of that string data prep. So for example, when we look at using Google Cloud, when you're doing data prep in Google Cloud, you're using Pandas, which is their engine for text and string manipulation and all the data prep stuff. So we import those automatically, and then we tell you what columns you can access. So those are the columns that you dragged into your column. So in this case, ship name and sum of quantity. And what I want to do here is I want to plot a bar chart where the x-axis is ship name, the y-axis is sum of quantity, and that's it. Boom, like magic, I get a chart. Now, this chart doesn't look beautiful. You can see that the x-axis is completely scrunched together. You would have this problem if you were using Reveal or any charting engine. Doesn't really matter, because there's a gazillion pieces of information there. So what you're trying to do is tell a story. So what you can do is still use the data filters like you would in Reveal. In this case, what I did is I said, show me the top 12 customers by units through a data filter. So all of the data filters, all of the widget level filters, and the global filters will work. And I will show you that as well in some of the demos. So here's some examples just to ease your fear of how complex this is. So to create an area chart with the date time axis, it's 3 lines of script. And actually, you know what? It's actually 2 lines. I made a mistake here. you can see I actually pasted in the same line twice, but what I did is I changed a variable called color equals green. So this area chart that's green was probably some other default color, and I said, well, I want to make it green. And that's what we did. And you also notice the AX equals AX, that's my legend. So sum of spend and sum of budget. If I don't want to show a legend, I would just get rid of that. And how would you know all this? Well, you would just go to the documentation for Python charts, and it'll tell you exactly all these variables. I'm going to show you some of that documentation in my demo. Here's the word cloud guide. This is really cool. You'll notice nice colors in the word cloud, but I also have mentioned Color Brewer. You'll see the library we're importing here is Color Brewer. Now, I'm importing some other libraries to make this work in my app. So just like if you were building an application, an iOS app, let's say, and you have to add a dependency because you're using some third-party tool, you have to make sure those libraries are installed as part of your SDK installation. All that can be scripted, and you can do all this right within the GUI, like the R GUI that I showed you, or from Python from the command line. But you can see here, there's a bunch of stuff going on. This ... there's a lot of data prep going on. I'm going to show you that data prep code, because when we talk about, I have data, but it doesn't quite match how I want to express my visualization. Well, you have the full power of R and Python. These are complete programming languages that you can do anything with data. But you'll see here that I am rendering a word cloud. Word cloud, and what am I using? I'm using these words. What's the frequency? The minimum frequency would be 1 word, maximum 150. And then colors. What colors do I want? Well, I want to use the Color Brewer palette with 8 colors, and I want to use the dark 2 palette. So this is stuff that you can use to really light up your visualizations. And I'm going to show you a few examples of this sample. And this is a cool one. In Reveal, we have a tree map, but we don't have a heat map yet. Now, could you do a heat map with a grid and conditional formatting? Maybe, but it wouldn't look as cool as this. Well, 15 lines of code in Python, and boom, you got a beautiful heat map. And of course, maybe you don't like those colors. Well, you see here where it says color equals, and down here where I'm actually telling it what to render, I could use the Color Brewer palette. I can use any palette. So remember, whatever your imagination really is, you can do, because you are customizing this through a programming language which has all of these extensions. So it's actually something that is pretty cool. So now let's get into a demo. Let me open up Reveal, and what I can do, and I was thinking of this last night, it was a little late, is I have all of these samples, my samples, in this analytics folder, and I don't have them anywhere online. We'll put them up on GitHub in the Reveal repository, and so you can just grab them. And then, like, for example, if we look at a Python, or actually any dashboard, so if I go to the manufacturing dashboard here, let me move this out of the way, and I click the 3 dots and I click Save As. Whoops, nope, I don't want to. I want to export it. Sorry, I get those mixed up. I want to click Export to Dashboard. So I'll export these R- files. So then you can grab the R- file from GitHub, and then you click here and you just say Upload, and then you'll get the folder. I could also share it with you, but once it's shared from me, that means like we're kind of tightly coupled on this. And if I delete it one day, you're kind of out of luck. So it's better, since you're in your own environment, you can take these and learn from them. Before, though, I show the analytics R and Python, let me give you a sneak peek of something that we're shipping in a couple weeks. So we are, if you didn't update yet, we've shipped the tree map, which was last month, but now we're shipping the geospatial map. So this is cool. You'll be able to do choropleth maps, scatter maps. In your SDK, you can use Bing, OpenStreet, Mapbox, Esri, Leaflet, you name it, from a tile source. So within, the next few weeks, you're going to be able to do some pretty awesome visualizations with maps. And the cool thing is, just like any other component or visualization in Reveal, if I go to edit, like this guy here, we've got a nice graph. We have all these settings. So maybe you don't like these colors. Maybe you want to do a purple map. We've got some different color ranges that you can do. You can show labels when it has values or no labels. It's pretty cool. Here, if I want to do the values like so. But anyway, that's a sneak peek. So if you've been waiting for us to ship geospatial maps, your wait is almost over. So let's go now and take a look at my analytics folder, and I have an R and Python folder here. So what I'll do just to kick it off is I'm just going to create a new dashboard, and I'm going to use the sample data that ships with Reveal. And I'm going to show you real quickly before I go into some pre-made demos how to do this yourself. I'm going to grab the manufacturing data, and if I do a peek of the data, there's a field here called units lost that I want to actually do a summary by, and I want to put this into a histogram over time. So I am going to select that data, and I end up here. So I want to do date, and I want to do units lost, like so. And as I showed in the slide deck, what you can do here is select your scripting. So here, if I click R script, for example, and I go to settings, these settings look different than what you saw in the map or in a normal visualization, like where you had colors and legend and all that other stuff. Basically, what you have is a couple things here: show title, edit the script, or update the interpreter path. So when you click update here, we will attempt to auto detect the path. This is something that in the SDK you would force, so you don't have to worry about it. But when you're using the WPF app, like you download the desktop app today and you want to try all this stuff, if we don't auto detect it, just browse to the path that you are actually using for your R install, and everything will be fine. So I'm going to click edit, and this looks just like what we saw in the slide. With R, I'm not using any additional libraries because all of the visualization libraries are built in. So to do a histogram is super easy, and I'm just going to copy this field here. So I want to do a histogram of sum of units lost. So we're actually passing the fields that you dragged into the column. So if you wanted some other column, just drag them all in, and then you have these available to you. So I'll click the checkbox, and just like that, I have a histogram. So you can see here that the default R histogram looks pretty good, actually. But you know, histogram of data set, sum of units lost, data set, sum of units lost is my x-axis. Frequency is okay, and it's looking at some numbers here. But just to show you that we are dealing with real data here, let me go back to data. And if I go to take my sum of units lost and I add it to a data filter, I can set rules on this. So I can say above average equals, you know, top percent. If I say top 20% of these guys, it'll reflect the data values here. So it looks like the top 20% are the ones that have the biggest units lost. If I get rid of this guy and I add a date filter, and here I want to do a filter by rule, and let's do the last 30 days. I'll create the filter, and again, it's kind of like one big blob, but you'll notice that my date is dealing with a year aggregation. If I click the date aggregation, I have a histogram which shows the last 30 days. Now we're getting somewhere. This is kind of what I wanted to show my manager and kind of give them the heads up that, you know, we're losing a lot of units here. There's a frequency of 6 units being lost, 200 units being lost more than 6 times. That's pretty scary. But let's go and customize this a little bit more. So one of the things you can do, and by the way, I'm not an R expert, but what I did, and I'll drag my browser window over here, is I did a Google search and I said, how to do a histogram in R. Lo and behold, I end up at this website, tutorials point, and I'm like, oh, okay, hist, that's cool. Data main, I don't even know what this stuff means, but guess what? They're showing us right here. So what do I want to change? I want to change my X label. I don't really need to change my my data limitation, though I could. I can change the color. I can change the title. So all this stuff is right there for me. I don't even have to guess. And even better, on this guy here, there's some code that I could just copy. So if I want to change the color to yellow and the border to blue, I'm going to copy this, and I'm just going to add a comma and paste this in and hit the checkbox, and lo and behold, there is my histogram. And we remember that I wanted to change the title. So the main title is going to be units lost last 30 days. Oops. DAYS. And my X label is going to equal units lost. And I already have the close parenthesis here, and that looks like it's all I need. I click the checkbox, units lost last 30 days, units lost. And of course, yellow is really not our brand. Our brand is green. And all of our borders are required to be red. And Tobias, Dr. Tobias Kamishki is on the call. He is one of the contributors to our Hall of Shame for all those data visualizations that I showed you last month. And I think he says that green and red do not go well together when you're trying to read charts, but that's okay. I'm gonna click this and we're done. Now, the great thing is, I'm gonna click this checkbox here. We'll change new dashboard to test histogram, like so. I'll check the box, and I'm going to change this to leave it at test histogram. So now I'm back here in my visualization. Here's test histogram. I can click share, and the nice thing is I've already shared this whole folder here with Casey. So in her reveal, it just showed up and she can view it, you know, and because she has all the prerequisites installed. Now, if you're doing this within your app in the SDK, all your users will magically get it and be able to view it. So let's just go through a few examples of some of the things that you can do with R and Python. So this is a dashboard using showing an area chart, but I have a tree map in here, a scatter chart. Here is our area chart. If I click edit, and I click edit on this guy, I'm in the editor. I have date, spend, and budget. Now let's go and look at our code. This is exactly what I had pasted into the slide. So if I get rid of this line, the one where it said color green, and I hit the checkbox, you'll be able to see that the area chart is blue, and I've only got the one axis or one series now showing. But you'll see that I've imported in some libraries, or Reveal has done that automatically. But again, it's one line of code to actually make this visualization work well. And it works well across all of my widgets. So if I hit the checkbox here and I go to my filter, now I'm not actually sure about the date range here. So let me go back a few years. I'll say 2011, January 1st. And let's go to 2020, July 8th, and I'll hit apply. And you'll notice that my area chart updated as you would have expected it to update, because we are dealing with the data that's in the visualization. So all of my widgets updated when I did a date filter on the visualization. Let me show you something. Oh, I had mentioned the heat map before. Now the heat map is a little bit more advanced. There's a little bit more code, because what we're doing is we're dealing with a matrix. Whoops. Let me go back to heat map and click edit. And I'll click edit. And you can see here, it renders nicely. I'll go to my settings, go to edit. So we're doing a little bit more data shaping here. So the data that's coming in, we're using the campaign ID and the territory, and we're doing some data shaping, creating the actual table, and then we are rendering the table out. all you need to do is copy this actually from here down, change your field names, and you will have a heat map just like this. So it's actually pretty sweet. Click here. Now let's take a look at the word cloud one. Oh, that was in R. Before I go to R, I'll finish up here. This is actually neat. This is a 3D library called MPL3D. And this is a boring column chart, but what MPL3D does is it has a little toolbar here. So you can do things like activate panning and zooming within the data. You can use your scroll wheel to scroll in and out and then pan and zoom, and then click the home button to get back to the visualization. This guy here is using the same rendering library. Now notice I'm not doing any 3D. I'll show you the 3D in a minute. But this is neat because this one's pretty advanced. It's actually doing, and it's updating the spline chart based on the hover events in the scatter chart. So here I am going to zoom in. I'll do a range select and zoom in, and I will deselect that. And now when I click and hover, you can see that there's some pretty cool stuff going on. Let me click edit. I'll click edit, and this one's neat because I mentioned earlier that we are using not only a library, a Python library, but we have injected a mouse JavaScript for mouse events and hover events. So you've got Python, you've got a third-party plugin in MPL3D and JavaScript, which to anyone on the call, you're thinking, does that mean I can literally do anything that I want? And the answer is yes, because look, when you think about Plotly, MPL3D, and other libraries, they are rendering to HTML. We support rendering HTML because, of course, we have our own DIY visualization JavaScript bridge. So anything you can do, you can do. All right, so now sticking with our 3D library, let's go to pie charts. Date, heat map, interactions, map, sand key. I don't know where my pie charts went. Oh well, when I find them, they might be in another folder. We'll get to them. But before I go to R, let's show two other really cool ones. We talk about data stories. Nothing tells a data story like a sand key diagram. Look at this thing. You've got the ability to click and hover, get all the information that you need. It resizes beautifully within the browser, so or within Reveal, so as I resize. So this will pretty much render anywhere. And this is actually using Python with D3 to render in Reveal. And of course, you get a nice a toolbar with it, and this is using the Plotly R library with D3. And then finally, some maps, which this is actually cool. We talk about data storytelling. I want to really kind of communicate to my team the growth of Walmart stores since 1962 and the regions where we expanded. So this is great. It's showing a map for every year since 1962 to 2006. And very quickly, you can see that, it looks like Walmart must have started somewhere in, is that Arkansas? Yeah, I think so. And then we go through a lot of South, Midwest, Southern Midwest, more South. Wow, Walmart, 1981. Good luck if you worked at Amazon, but they weren't there. But in Seattle, there's no Walmarts. Now Walmart explodes. And now it was really in the 90s where Walmart made a push to the West Coast, and now they're basically everywhere. And then you can see here at the bottom, we've got new stores per year. So there was a spike probably in the mid 80s, and then the cumulative sum continues to skyrocket. But what I'm doing here is I'm combining Reveal visualization, so the total stores by state, openings by year. So I want to get the actual, like 1984, there was 99 new openings. 1990, there was 178 new openings. I can't tell it from the map, but the map gives me that real quick overview which then I can go ahead and start to investigate further with the other visualizations. So very cool there. So let's take a look at R real quick. Here's my word clouds. Sorry. So this is the one I thought was in Python, but this is using R, and it's using that data prep. And there's a couple other things happening here. You'll notice that the number of words in my word cloud is increasing, top 10, top 50, top 225. The colors are different as well because we were using the color brewer palette. But you'll notice here, this is the data that I'm using. These are just, that's the Twitter API. You can go grab it for anything. You could actually make this your own feed, copy this dashboard, change it to your company name or your name, and you can get a word cloud. This guy has a few different items. So let's take a look at oil prices and what are people talking about. Oil price and a lot of other words, update, average, make, Brent, COVID, Brent, etc. Bitcoin, is there a lot of action on Bitcoin? Everyone wants to know price, okay? And how about COVID? COVID, positive people, home, new, pandemic now, tested. These are the top 10 words being, in Twitter today for COVID. But let's go back to Infragistics. And now it'll just update. So let's edit this guy. And you'll notice here, click edit. I am using the REST API with this. So here it is, API twitter.com, 1.1 search tweets, and then we're passing it the query. What's the query? The query is the parameter we're sending, COVID, Infragistics, etc. This is everything I get back. But I just want the entities back. So I load that data and I end up with text. Then if I go into my settings, into my script, this is where there's that data prep code, that dot, dot, dot that I had in the slide. It's showing you all of the stuff that you can do, or just an example of what's possible with data prep and scripting in the controls. So it's a string. We got to get this string into something useful and meaningful. I got to remove punctuation, and then I got to count words and blah, blah, blah. Well, this is everything that's happening here. And then finally, I just tell it to do the word cloud. The way that we're doing like 10, 50, 225, this particular word cloud library has a dot words property. And then I mentioned the color brewer palettes. So there's the color brewer palette 8, dark 2. And how do I know that? So I would go to our color brewer palettes, and I would see here our color brewer. So I could change this to anything I want. We could change it to BRBG, capital B, small r, BG, BRBG. Now I'm going to click the checkbox, and I guess it changed. I kind of forgot what it looked like before, but that's as easy as it is to start experimenting and changing these yourself. So pretty cool. I really like the word cloud one, and it did change it. So that's how it looks. So it did actually change it to something different. I'll discard these changes, and let's look at pie charts. I promised a 3D pie chart. And again, you probably only use this in desperate situations. This data is not that great anyway, because it's very similar. But I was just throwing this together last night. And if I click edit, you can see here, this is all I have to do is I say pie, because I want a pie chart, and I want to see sum of spend by territory. And that's it. So now when we look at this, this is the default render for the pie chart in R with those are the default colors. Now, if I edit this visualization, you'll notice it's slightly different. I have sum of spend. Now I'll click edit, and I'll go to edit, and pie, same data, main title, spend by territory, and then the colors, I want to use a rainbow color palette with the number of items in sum of spend. So it's just going to keep adding colors based on that. And then campaign spend, you'll notice, is different as well. It has percentages instead of values, and it has a legend. So let's go to edit here, click edit, and you can see it's just a little bit more code. Now, again, how did I know this? Well, I was over on the R website and I looked for pie charts, and I just copied this off. And you'll notice here, like X in labels, basically that's our value. So X is the sum of the values. Labels are the category, so it's the string value. So X goes first, labels goes second, and then I get a pie chart. You don't have to save it off. You don't have to do any of that. We do the publish for you. So you just type in pie and then the values. Then I scrolled down. I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. Scrolled down, copied it, pasted it. Oh, there's a pie chart. How cool. Well, how the heck did it do 3D? Well, it's using a library called Plotrix. Oh, okay. How do I install Plotrix? Well, what you do is you go to your C drive, program files. I mean, there's several ways to do this, but if you're new to this, this is the easiest way. I go to bin and I open up rgui.exe and I type in install.packages, and I'm going to type in Plotrix like so and hit enter, and it's going to say, oh, well, where do you want to get it from? It doesn't really matter. I'll get it from Iowa's thing. And now it will grab it. And now I can do 3D charts. That's as easy as it is. Now, in your SDK install, you would do all this automatically, right? So your users would never do this. You're doing it to set things up and to test and all that stuff. So anyway, that's how easy it is to actually get started and just kind of cobble your way through putting things together to tell the data story that you're really trying to tell with Reveal. Box plots, this was another neat one. This is using mileage data and cylinder data over time. It's a CSV file, and so it's showing you the miles per gallon within an error bar, essentially, a box plot by cylinder of engine. And this guy does a little sort of nice visualization on top of it. And if I go to edit this guy, it's a CSV file. You'll notice it's just 2 rows, MPG and this number of cylinders. If I look at the script itself, what I'm doing is I'm saying, you figure out the miles per gallon data set range, because that's what the box plot chart is supposed to do. I don't have to write a bunch of code to do this stuff. Pass it the data set and my labels, and that's it. Now I have a nice variant of what's the average miles within an error between 4-cylinder, 6-cylinder, and 8-cylinder cars. And you can see a 4-cylinder will get you the most bang for your buck. All right, so that is all we have for demos. Like I said, I probably should have thought of this earlier. These will be available in your follow-up email. We'll make sure there's a link to get all of the dashboards, because that's the easiest way for you to figure this out. This slide deck will be posted on SlideShare today. So just do a SlideShare search for Infragistics and Reveal, and this will pop up. But simple, beautiful. Using Reveal, you're not limited. So hopefully you saw that today. I try to give you an array of examples that really demonstrate the power of what you can do with the product. Don't limit the experience you can give to your customer. Remember, we don't know your business. We are not experts in your domain. You're the expert in your domain. We've enabled you to tell any data story that you want with our Python DIY visualizations. You can plug anything that you can imagine into Reveal to ensure that you're telling the right data story to supercharge your visualizations. And finally, use Reveal to enable advanced scripting and custom data visualizations. Try Reveal today at revealbi.io. And what you're going to do at revealbi.io is you are going to click here where it says desktop. You're going to go ahead and download the desktop product, and you're going to start creating these custom visualizations or importing the ones that I have. And I'll make sure my my data sets are public. You can grab them. And then you're going to use those in the SDK when you deploy it. So that's basically the workflow that you would use. You build them using the desktop app, and then they are part of your product, or they're a URL or something like that. But anyway, I want to thank everyone for attending today. Thanks, Casey, for manning the Q&A boxes. You have our emails as usual. We would love to hear from you on how we can improve Reveal, other things you might want to do with custom visualizations. And what we'll do, as usual, is we will stay on the line for another 15 minutes or so and answer any of the outstanding questions. But in the meantime, we'll go on mute, and we'll disable our cameras. So thanks again, everyone, for attending today, and hopefully you're pretty excited about doing some custom visualizations with Python and R in Reveal. Thank you.